Hello there. Welcome back to my channel, Snips by Kelly. I'm Kelly and I'm excited that you're here tonight for the last and final layout in the Skylark series. Yes, we have created 4 layouts so far, and tonight will be the 5th and final. So layout number 1 was heavy on the florals, some background stenciling on circles and directly on the page, and some stamping on some cardstock strips. Layout number 2, we created triangle corners with beautiful transition stenciling. We did some distressing of some photo mats and pulled that all together. We went a little more masculine for layout number 3 with layers of backgrounds with a grid on top and some journaling spots inside of flip flap with some stenciling. Layout number 4 was again the use of a flip flap with some hidden journaling and some stenciling, some fun stenciling on a film strip and on a background title piece, and did a lot of layering with that one as well. Here is my final photo, the only photo left in this series of photos, and this is our granddaughter Ramsey Kate, and it is a black and white photo, and she's looking up toward the sky, and I envision her looking at a butterfly or a dragonfly or a firefly. Now we could put a flip-flop on that and make this a 3-photo layout super easy, and you have had examples of that in my previous videos, but I'm actually just using this last and final photo. So here's what we have left after we've created 4 layouts. We've done quite well. There isn't too much left. The largest piece is my favorite piece of that diagonal lagoon stripe, but there isn't too much left in my little Skylark basket here. So I envision using this 10 by 10 diagonal lagoon stripe and actually making an oversized dovetailed banner for the background of this. Now, because it's only 10 by 10 and I want the banner to reach a little lower on the page, I'm going to actually add some extra pattern paper up to the top. So again, one of the reasons that I gut my paper is to have a complete 10 by 10. If you do a 1-inch gutting of a 12 by 12 paper, you'll end up with a 10-inch piece inside that you can use for other things. So I have this 1.5-inch strip of that beautiful vintagey distressed background paper there, and it's a little long, so I'm going to trim that down to 10 inches. So the final size will be 1.5 by 10. So there's the quatrefoil pattern on the back, and then this real fun vintage pattern on the front, which I love. I love that little believe that's embedded in that, but I don't end up getting to have that show. But when you take our pattern paper, it has a grain. When you go against the grain, it's harder to fold. When you go with the grain, it's easier to fold. So you can create a large dovetail on this piece by marking at the 5-inch mark, maybe an inch or an inch and a half or 2 inches up, and then cutting from each edge and creating a diagonal banner. But I'm a little lazy, and I'm actually going to fold it on the grain because it'll fold very easily then, and it won't make an ugly crease in the center. And I'm just going to cut, I think it's about 1.25 1.5 is the highest side, and create this pretty dovetailed banner, easy. And then this is kind of a cool little piece that you never know. I might reserve that and use that on something else, the throwaway piece. So now I do want it to look like there's a whole other banner underneath that. But as you can see, we're down to scraps. So I have a couple 1/2-inch strips. I thought maybe I had some other strips of some other patterns that might be long enough, but it looks like these 2 quatrefoil strips are what are going to work. They are 1/2 inches, and I already know I'm going to put some transitional strips across. So I don't need that strip to go all the way up, but I do want it to be just slightly shorter than the Lagoon striped banner so that it actually looks like there's a whole banner under it when it's only going to be the strips. So I'm just going to mark it, and it's actually going to be about 9 3/4 so that when you line it right up with the 10-inch banner, then it's going to be just about 1/4 of an inch shorter. I'm going to flip it over and lay it over the other strip so I can just snip those, and they're going to look exactly the same at the end. And I'm snipping those on a diagonal, and I reverse it before I lay it on top of that so that those little diagonals are going in the proper direction. And then I can tuck those under, and now it looks like I have a full banner of the quatrefoil limeade under there. Now I have a couple, probably the largest pieces I have are this kind of chevron-y limeade, and then this really beautiful sort of a vintage cross floral pattern. And I think that they're probably not exact because I actually didn't cut those. Those were left over. So they look like they're super close to like 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, almost like what a photo mat would be. If they're 4 1/6, that 4 by 6, that's fine as well. Just arranging the strips on top, and I'm fussing around a little bit because I can't decide if I'm going to be able to salvage that believe. I really want to use this word strip, but I don't know if I want word on top of word, and then I'm still trying at this point to salvage that believe because I really think it's a neat embedded piece. But then I end up going a little higher and covering up that word so there's not too many words. So again, I think I have like a 4 1/4 by a 6 1/4 and maybe a 4 by 6 there of the blue and a 4 1/4 by a 6 1/4 of that green. But when you get to the end of the video, you're going to see that I use very little of that shows of each of those. You could probably get by with half of the height of that limeade pattern piece and the lagoon pattern piece. Now, I do decide that I'm going to bring in those black accents again with this. And this piece is actually 4 1/2 by 6 1/2 because originally I was just going to make another photo mat around it. I do have 1/8 of an inch of white daisy around my 4 by 6 photo of Ramsey Kate. And you could on your Picture-Made or your photo printer just give yourself a white edge, and then you wouldn't have to add that white daisy. So now I kind of envision some words and some stenciling coming off the bottom of that lagoon banner. Now there's a stamp on the stamp set that we haven't had a chance to use yet, and it says live in the moment. Now I don't particularly need a title for this because, as you know, in the previous 4 videos, I have been trying to use the Limeade Life title because I love, love, love it. So I'm actually going to try and stamp this stamp second generation, but instead of using it as a title, I'm just going to use it as interesting words in the background. But as always, I'm practicing on scrap paper because I don't trust myself to go right ahead on a 12 by 12 base and just go for it without sort of seeing if I like the look and if I think that that's going to work. So obviously the whole piece there, live in the moment, isn't going to show. But if in the moment showed, or even if moment showed at the bottom, and then maybe having some jade vines and leaves from the stencil come out. Now, if you're just tuning in on this video, I have gone in great depth in video number 1 in this series of how I created all the bits and pieces that we're going to use tonight, which Stampin' Thin Cuts I've added to this set, and it is all also completely spelled out in the description. And I was trying to be careful from video number 1 all the way to this current video to give dimensions and measurements, but if we get to the end and you'd like a little bit more support, And don't worry, I'm going to be offering a cheat sheet option that will have all of the dimensions, the supply list, and a full color photo array of each of the layouts, as well as the design space link that you can click on. And if you own the images and the collections used, it will cut everything in the right color and the right size. You just have to load your mats. And so it will help you cut your paper all at once and then follow along in the video series. Or you can simply just follow along with videos 1 through 5 and just create right along with me. I'm careful throughout to give measurements so you can just follow my video or you can check out the cheat sheet. So as you can see, I have second generation, meaning stamping off once and then without re-inking, stamping off again. So I've second generation stamped that stamp, and I don't want the whole title to show. I just want little bits of that to show. Now I've come back in with the stencil, and I'm adding one leaf bit that has a floral on the end on the right of that moment. And then I'm adding just leaves to the left of that moment just to add a really fun play with a little bit of texture and background stenciling here. And so I think I'm going to end up loving this. I wasn't quite sure. It's not a typical word stamp in that it has tiny words, but I don't think it's necessary when you're just doing distress background stamping and you just want a variety of words in the back. We have some great stamps that are great for second generation stamping that have just little vintagey elements in the back with, you know, words maybe in another language, maybe a little French, just to look a little vintagey. So now I'm going to place those extra photo mats, and here I'm giving you my exact measurements just in case I was off when I was guessing. I think I'm pretty close. I think it was 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 and a 4 by 6, and then the black is 4 1/2 by 6 1/2. And again, only bits of those are going to show. You could just simply cut those in half and have extra pattern paper left over to make cards or something like that. So I'm just going to toggle these, which is just a layer of paper that is done over and over on so many layouts, just to add some different colored elements. And yay, I'm so excited here. I'm jumping up and down because I have tried to use this sticker in layouts 1 through 4, and I'm getting her done, last but not least. So here's my bit tray, and if you watched video number 1, which of course will be linked in the description, as will all the videos in this series, I used our fancy doilies from our Hope and Kindness collection, and I made a bunch of doilies knowing full well that I wasn't going to be able to use them all, but I had so much fun pulling that back out again. You know, sometimes when you don't use something for a while, you forget how beautiful it is. And this is a real awesome go-to that you can use over and over, and it's still available on the shop site. So I do want some texture with the doily in the background. I'm not quite sure what color. I was kind of toggling between Lagoon and black. I do end up going with black. And then I actually add partial bits of this little limeade and then a partial bit of the little Lagoon, which is the smaller doily in that set. And I do add those a little bit later on here in the video, just for some consistency. And my idea is to really wrap around that corner. I want to hug that photo in an L shape or a full swoop and have that the hugging of those florals come all the way up to the title for closure. And I just think that's going to be so wonderful to have that just snuggling around Ramsey Kate, and those bright colors in the Lagoon especially make her black and white photo pop. And so I have So I have 8 grandchildren, and I have scrapped 4 of them, 3 from one family and 1 from another family of our children, in this Skylark series. And it's been so fun to get these scrapped. I did use a few of these photos in different layouts in the past, but I haven't scrapped the entire series. So it's been really, really fun. So as you know, my favorite part, playing around, and we really want to create balance in pages, and it can be symmetrical or asymmetrical, but just so that you have some heavier bits in some spots and some lighter bits in some spots. And when I say heavier and lighter, I mean by color, by weight, by size, and just adding a lot of different types. So we have some thin cuts in there. We're going to have, we have some stamped bits in there. We have those doilies in there. And eventually we're going to add some die cuts from the black die cuts that we're using in this set. We have some sprigs and leaves, little sprigs and leaves from the Sprigs and Leaves set, which is a thin cut set that again I reviewed on the first video, and that will be in this description, and those are still available as well. We have those Isabella florals, and all I did with those Isabella florals is I rubbed them with a blending brush with Lagoon, Limeade, and Jade inks respectively. And again, I showed all that on the first video. I'm going to pop that Life, Love, and the Memories title up with foam tape. And then I'm just coming back in and I'm adding a little bit more grounding with those doilies. And so you hear the word grounding a lot. You can ground a layout with color, with background pages, and with accents. So we're grounding this layout a little bit with some black, but you also hear the word grounding a lot when you're making clusters or anchor. You're going to ground your cluster or anchor your cluster, usually with a larger bit that you can start tucking under and over, and that's kind of the foundation or the anchor for your cluster. So sometimes it doesn't always matter exactly which one, but I do have a tendency to start with the larger. So you can see that larger limeade floral that has the two leaves coming out of it and the lime below it sort of acted as my anchor, and then I tucked doilies under and I tucked florals over. And then over on the right, even though it isn't a complete visual triangle because I actually didn't stop. I did a full swoop around the lower corner, but that is actually somewhat of a triangle in and of itself. And because there's only one photo, then I'm going to make that cluster up in the upper or the lower middle there against that title so that your eye swoops around and back up over that photo and the title. It's gonna really help you focus on the title as well. And I love that title. The best things in life are the people we love, the places we've been, and the memories we've made along the way. Again, there's a reason I tried to use it 5 times on 5 different layouts. So I take a little longer as usual on some of these bits. I'm tearing apart some of the sprigs and leaves to get a little bit more play out of them and just to maybe make them fit a little bit more and not be so large and chunky. And you can pull bits apart and use both bits, and then they look a little bit layered. I'm adding in a different combination. A lot of times when I do a leaf as a base, I'll do both the same colored leaves, and I thought I'm going to try to do one limeade leaf and one jade leaf. And again, those are from the Isabella Stamp and Thin Cuts, as are the florals. That is still available, but many, many, many of my Snips by Kelly paper crafters out there have them. And because we did a complete Isabella workshop that used them, and so knowing that most of my paper crafters have those, and they were super popular. So I think even if you have another maker and you're not my Snips by Kelly paper crafters, you probably have them as well. Love, love, love. So I'm digging through my Junk Gypsy tray and I'm finding some little hidden gems in here. We have some arrows, we have some hexagons, and I haven't used that teeny tiny little camera and I love it so much. Now I'm feeling like that large butterfly is way too large for this, but I do love that Ramsey Kate is looking upward into the sky, or like to a bird, or, she has such a great look of awe and wonder on her face. So I think I will use that black butterfly up there. So it's aiming in the direction of her look, that she's looking off in that direction. I might want to add a few little things to those transition strips, but those words up on top really make it a little harder. I don't want to add words below words. So I kind of end up thinking that those transition strips are fine up there on their own, but I'm double checking all the sentiments that are left. I contemplate popping amazing on top of amazing, just as some added dimension. I've got some rounded stickers. I've got a lot of word stickers. I don't need a lot, except maybe a little later I would add a few little words at the top of those photo mats, either the pattern paper photo mats or the cardstock photo mats. So there's a little bit of a play on words up above Ramsey, but I don't know if I need it or not. So I'm just going to play with a few little bits here. I like the idea of grabbing a few little arrows just to be able to add in a little bit more of that black. I definitely want to use the little camera. I'm just not sure how or where. And so I'm fussing around. I'm just doing my fussy thing. So I'm so excited that you've come along on this series and this journey of 5 layouts. And I hope that you will create. I hope you'll pull out that Skylark bundle or even papers from your stash and reduplicate some of these layouts and just have fun with me. I really love the way that they turned out. So now I'm just adding some little hexagon tidbits as some more texture underneath those florals. Sometimes when we think about a bouquet, we have little sprigs of things and little shapes and little maybe like little balls or circles or different glitter things. And I think these hexagons work really great under there because you don't want all the same elements. We've got stenciling under there. We have second generation stamping under there. We have stamping and thin cuts that are rubbed with our ink. We have thin cut doilies. We have sprigs and leaves that are thin cuts. And then we also have regular pattern paper as a layer of texture. And then now we're adding those hexagon die cuts. And it's just so wonderful to have so many different layers of type and texture under there. So now I'm loving that camera backed in that little tiny piece of pattern paper. And I love it so much that I think I might back this little chipboard heart. I want to use it, and I'll just give you a little secret. I don't end up finding a way to make it work on this layout. It's just a little bit, I don't know, chunky up there, and I don't end up using it there, but I leave it lay there for a while I contemplate and while I make my decisions. So I'm just kind of working it around now. I'm getting happier. I do want to use this word sticker, but I don't think a banner play is going to go very well up on top. So I'm just going to cut off those 2 dovetailed ends, and I'm going to try to get a little bit of balance with this sticker. And usually, if I would have been thinking when I was putting this together, I like another layer to act as a transition strip between 2 step ups. So we have that that chevron limeade piece, and then right below it we have the lagoon pattern paper piece. And so that let your light shine, I think, will go really, really well, just peeking through that little transition between the 2 of those pieces. And that's where it ends up landing, and that ends up being its forever home, and I'm happy with that. So now it's just a matter of playing around with a few little leftover bits in the black die cuts. I do have a heart, so I think I could put a heart somewhere up or down, and I'm getting happy. I hope you are happy and that you've loved this series of 5 layouts with Skylark. And again, at the end of the video, you can check out in the description of this video, and also linked and embedded within the video, a little link to my blog with your options to grab the cheat sheet. And I also have a Cricut cut option if you want me to make your Cricut cuts for you. There's a way for you to earn those Cricut cuts by an order on my shop site, and I'll cut those for you and ship those to you as a bonus for that order. All right, yay, we did it. Hey, be sure if you've enjoyed this, you've been entertained or inspired, hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and most importantly, shoot me a comment and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know what you're going to use the Skylark series for. And happy scrapping, everyone. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time for the next video with Snips by Kelly. Bye-bye.